They should bring in a Zelf. Oh, they bring in Blaziken. So for sub. Okay, it's not Scarf. Swords Dance.
I don't like where this is going.
Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. That's... Huh? Wait.
Please, Larry, you don't understand. You don't know what you're doing here.
That's not allowed.
Soon after.
Pain pickle.
Greetings everyone, Spartan here, coach of the Victor Velvetini. Welcome to week 2 of LDL G-Max Division. We're up against a new player, Lat, coach of the Miami Heat Cinderace. A few things I want to mention. If you've seen the clip that I posted, as this will be a post-com team builder, the battle didn't go so well. So, a few things I want to mention. First off, week 1 never ended up happening, so ended up being a forfeit. Really wanted to battle against my opponent, which was Thumb Brother 2, coach of the Salt Lake City Swamperts. Didn't work out in terms of like matching up our times. Anyways, long story short, ended up being a forfeit. So, no week 1, but we're still going to show off hopefully the remaining battle. Now, week 2. This was interesting. So, let's discuss about what my opponent has. So, my opponent's team of Zapdos, Azelf, Volcarona, Mamoswine, Blaziken, Bisharp, Galarian Weezing, Golurk, Dragonite, Quagsire, and Hitmonchan. Now, initially, this team wasn't as bad in terms of like team building, but the one thing that really threw me off was apparently my opponent brought Speed Boost Blaziken.
Oh my god.
Long story short, only Blaziken is allowed. Speed Boost Blaziken is banned. And I guess my opponent didn't know that, even though it was on the document. And even though my opponent won, per se, against me, because that specific Blaziken set destroyed me. It wasn't... What's the best way to describe it? I did not want the game to be a fact that my opponent lost due to technicality, even though he beat me. But at the same time, it didn't feel right allowing it to pass through. So I suggested that we could do a rematch. Asked with the mods. They said they were okay. If I was okay with the rematch, we were okay, and we ended up doing a rematch. So discuss more about that later. So in terms of the matchup, post non-speed boost Blaziken, it's not too bad. Just the only like 3 threatening Pokemon are Volcarona, Mamoswine, and Bisharp, with a little bit of Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan is a lot more scarier than Blaziken, I'll be real with you, because of the fact that it can Rapid Spin, gain a little bit of Speed Boost, and able to hit hard with its stab moves, plus any other moves that are boosted from its ability, Iron Fist. Boost up punching-based moves that isn't Sucker Punch by, I think it was 20%? It might be 30%. I think it was 20%. Whichever the two. Anyways, so that could have been a problem. Golurk and Mamoswine are both threatening Pokemon, as their dual typings alone can really hit my team really badly, and their coverage is really good. Mamoswine, it's a dual stab of ground and ice makes it very hard to switch into, and Golurk's just overall threatening base power in attack, along with great ability in both Iron Fist and No Guard, makes it very threatening. Other than that, everything else is easy to handle. I can handle Zapdos. It's normally bulky. It could be offensive, but also I don't think it will be too much of a problem. Azelf, I really don't see it being brought at all. Realizing that it is Blaziken, I don't see Blaziken being brought. Galarian Weezing, it has to be brought because of my Urshifu. Urshifu, I could just break through, but Weezing is a really good counter to Urshifu overall. So I could definitely see Weezing being brought. Dragonite, I can also be seen brought as well as a Dragonite setter or a very bulky defensive Dragonite that could be very annoying with like E-Wave, dual nice coverage in like Earthquake and Ice Beam or Ice Punch, be the defogger in the team. Yeah, there's that. Quagsire, initially was thinking about the Quagsire, but then again, I have a lot of offensive pressure to just make Quagsire less threatening. So I don't think Quagsire is being brought. So overall, when I was playing this, the 6 mons I expected were Volcarona, Mamoswine, Bisharp, Galarian Weezing, and the last two are a very big toss-up. I could definitely see Hitmonchan, Golurk being brought as well, and even Zapdos, and also Dragonite. Quagsire and Blaziken and Azelf, I really don't see them being brought in. About that, let's discuss about the team that I brought. So I initially stuck with the same 6 that I initially bought, but I changed their set, like only 2 sets, because I was allowed. So first up was Spectrier. Initially was going to be Choice Specs, because if I take out Bisharp, Spectrier just sweeps. However, I realized that my opponent can also run Concede Berry on Golurk. If that's the case, I can't beat it. I mean, I can't beat it, but it'll survive a hit. I believe it could survive a +2 Shadow Ball, or even a +2. No, not Hex. If I burn it, but that would be too risky. But I really do believe that Shadow Ball at +2, it'll survive the hit.
Are you sure about that?
With their own Concede Berry, so I was like, okay, I need to run Concede Berry just to be on the safe side. And I made sure that I'm able to outspeed, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't outspeed Zell because I didn't see Zell being brought at all. So I only made it so I can able to outspeed the base 100 mons, which were Zapdos and Volcarona. The moves with Shadow Ball, Mudshot, Hex, and Will-O-Wisp. With Mudshot, if I can like predict, if I predict it would be a 2-hit KO on Bisharp, I would be risking a potential Sucker Punch from that mon, but at the same time, damage is needed. And I think hazards with the additional of having Mudshot would be good. And even then, Shadow Ball does like what I think 30% on Bisharp. It does a lot. Because my opponent doesn't have a normal type, and the only dark type is a rather offensive Pokemon that can able to revenge kill Spectre pretty easy with the Sucker Punch if I can predict it or something like that. So it is something to keep in mind of overall. Next up, I did bring Kyurem with the heavy duty booties. I ran a substitute set, a Subaru set with freeze dry and earth power as the moves. Made sure I able to outspeed, if I'm not mistaken, Mamoswine. And I gave it a little bit more power and special attack, running modest instead of like per se timid, I eat hits. Like as long as I can able to predict or like switches or sucker punches from Bisharp, I can able to sub up pretty easily. And with pressure, I can able to wither away all those sucker punches and able to start clicking buttons when I want to. Because with the combination of Freeze Dart and Earth Power, it hits everything at least at neutral. The only Pokemon that can able to handle it is, of course, Mamoswine. But the chip from at least Earth Power does a good amount so that I can revenge kill later. Well, that's the main idea of Kyurem. Next up, I have Starmie running the Expert Belt. Initially, I had an Analytic because my opponent does not appreciate Starmie at all. With the initial typing of Dual Stab of Surf and Psychic, it hits everything at least at neutral. The only like exception would be like a Assault Vest Quagsire with Water Absorb over Unaware, but I don't see it at all. I don't see that happening. And with the switch outs from Analytic, it would have even more damage. However, after the battle, I was realizing that I didn't have a way of getting rid of hazards, especially toxic spikes, with Rapid Spin and still keeping Starmie at least healthy. So I went ahead and changed it to Natural Cure. That's the only change I did with Starmie, and I think that if I'm not mistaken, those are the only two main changes. Everything else I actually had stayed the same with everything else. Made sure, once again, outspeed the base 100s. Didn't really expect Ezelt to be brought at all, but I can able to just click buttons easily. Like, if not Surf, Psychic. If not Psychic, Surf. If the Sharp is gone, I can easily click Surf. I mean, no, if the Sharp is gone, I can able to click Psychic. And Ice Beam is for Dragonite. It'll eat a Ice Beam with the multi-scale, but if it's no multi-scale, I instantly KO it. Anyways, moving on, we're next up is Steelix, running the Custom Berry. I want to have that last-ditch effort to throw in a Rock Tomb or Stealth Rock, or even some damage from its Dual Stab on any of my opponent's Pokemon. So I'm running a good amount of defenses, because I want to have enough defense on Steelix so they can able to survive hits from like Choice Band Mamoswine, like Choice Band Golurk. They're going to be able to survive a hit and take it relatively well. Not greatly well, but relatively well. And then also have a Gyro Ball, Earthquake for a great dual stab. Rock Tomb is for Volcarona specifically. So if I were to go down by like from Sturdy or from a good hit, or not a hit that would OHKO, because I'm not mistaken, it doesn't pay. Oh, well, depending on the Volcarona set, what it is that as long as my HP is like very below 25%, I can able to preserve the Steelix and have it so that once it faces against Volcarona, I can go for Custap Berry and go off a last ditch effort Rock Tomb, so I can lower its speed. It doesn't KO instantly when it KO, but it does lower its speed enough so that my other Pokemon such as Starmie, Spectrier, and heck, even Kyurem can survive the hit, either survive the hit or outspeed it later on. So that's the main idea for Steelix. Next up, I brought Urshifu with the Choice Band. I have the moves Wicked Blow, Close Combat, U-Turn, and Iron Head. Iron Head is pretty much so that I can hit Galarian Weezing, even though I really suspect as much that it would at least have Rocky Helmet as its item, because it is the ideal check for Urshifu, so I have to be careful with that. But that's pretty much it about Urshifu. What else I could say? Well, actually, there is one thing I want to say. I initially was thinking about having a Sucker Punch, but I wanted something that I could able to hit Galarian Weezing if need be, so that's why I ran with Iron Head overall. And last but not least, I have Blissey with the Heavy Duty Booties, with the ability Natural Cure. With the moves Seismic Toss, Toxic, Soft Boiled, and Wish. I want this to be the Wish Passer. This is honestly the reason why I love Blissey, because it is one of the best Wish Passers. Because it passes so much HP back to any Pokemon. Like, I can literally give the Wish to Steelix, and it's nearly, if not fully healed, in one go. Or Starmie, or Spectrier. Anything that has, like, at least a base, specifically base 100 and below, it more than likely heal it instantly. Anything a little bit higher, like Kyurem, would at least get a good amount of HP back from the Wish Pass. Toxic is basically so I can wither down the bulky Mons, or even throw it off so it can hit Volcarona. Even though I do have to be careful of potential, what was it? It was Safeguard. That was it. If it runs that special Safeguard set, ooh, it's going to be very problematic. But other than that, that's it. That's pretty much the whole concept of the team. This is, and on one more thing, Blissey is also the main wall against Volcarona. It can easily tank hits from Volcarona and wither it down with Seismic Toss and Toxic, as long as it's not the Safeguard set. That's about it with that, and without further ado, let's jump right into the battle. Okay, you're probably wondering, Spartan, why are we on Showdown if this is a Wi-Fi league?
Good question.
There was a technicality, per se, rule broken in terms of my opponent's team. What they initially brought, and that was the fact they brought Speed Boost Blaziken to the match. And it kind of just destroyed my team, and I did not put that into mind when I was building, because Speed Boost Blaziken is banned. I mean, regular Blaziken, Blaziken is fine, but Speed Boost Blaziken is not. Yeah, and I didn't, like, I lost. I'll say it right, I lost. I got destroyed by that Blaziken. But at the same time, a rule was broken. And I wanted to discuss with the mods, like, I want a rematch. I don't want this to be like a case where I just lose, but I get a win because my opponent lost to... What just fell? Excuse me, 1 second.
1 minute later.
The reason why I wanted a rematch is because I don't want it to be a case where my opponent defeated me, but I get a win because of someone broke a rule. So I was like, just give me a rematch, we'll get this battle done, and we can move on from this. And so we did that. We discussed it, they allowed it, made it so that we just loaded up on Showdown. We got approval to do with this, so yeah. Also, there were changes from the initial team that I brought from the actual battle, because we were both of us were allowed to change up the team a bit. I kept the main 6. I just changed up a few things, and I did discuss it in the team builder, because at the end of the day, I didn't see like much of a reason to change up the subset for Kyurem, or the cut stat berry for the Steelix. So yeah, I will show you what happened at the near the end of this battle of what happened. Oh man, I mean, it was still a good battle on the initial battle, but god damn, I was like, bro, like I was thrown off by like, what? Wait, huh? Hold on a second. And I was literally speechless. Alright, so here we are with the rematch, and so my opponent brought Bisharp, Galarian Weezing, Azelf, Dragonite, Zapdos, and Golurk. The fact that my opponent brought a Zelf makes this interesting. Because both my fast Pokemon are, per se, slower than a Zelf. So, yeah. Anyways, let's jump into this battle. Let's see. I did lead off Starmie because I like Starmie was good because my opponent didn't have a good way of like. There were two leads, and I think the first game I did lead off with Steelix, but I think leading off with Starmie was good because it just shows like offensive pressure. So I went with that. Went with Starmie over Steelix. And I was like, okay, let me switch out. Went to Kyurem. My opponent goes for the Heat Wave. And I was like, what? I'm surprised that my opponent went for the Heat Wave, but I understood it because my other switch-in was indeed Steelix. I was actually thinking about going for Steelix, but instead, I did go to Kyurem. Kyurem took it pretty well, so I could actually set up with the subset. So I actually did that. As my opponent goes to Bisharp, which would put it in a really good position. I went for Earth Power. My opponent had Shuckleberry. Now, I actually thought it was going to be Shoppleberry because of Urshifu. But I think my opponent did bring a good prep with, per se, Shuckleberry. And my opponent goes for Ironhead to break the sub. I went for Earth Power, but I didn't expect that my opponent didn't go for a Sucker Punch for a last-ditch effort of damage. Because with that last-ditch effort of damage, my opponent could easily bring in their offensive Pokemon, put me in a position for me to either switch out or try to attack. But unfortunately, my opponent didn't. Goes for the Earth Power. I go for the Earth Power and KO. My opponent brings in Weezing. I go back to Starmie because I didn't have a good per se switching other than Blissey, and I don't know if it's one of those weird offensive sets that can touch Blissey per se. So I went into Starmie just to be on the safe side. My opponent goes for the Strange Team, no confusion luckily. My opponent goes into Zapdos. I go for the Psychic, did a good amount of damage, about 28, and my opponent revealed that it's leftovers. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch into Blissey. Is it gonna be able to wall the Zapdos? This is a special attacker, and it revealed that it also has Toxic. So I was like, okay, Heat Wave, Toxic. I know it has to have Roost because it has leftovers. I just didn't know what the last move is. It had to be either Volt Switch or Thunderbolt, or even Discharge. One of those three moves. So Blissey was like the best play to switch into, and I believe I go for the. I either switch out or go for the Wish, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I went for the Wish. I think I went back into Starmie. Yeah, I did go back to Starmie. Opponent goes for the Toxic Spikes. I can able to Rapid Spin it out of the way, luckily. And my opponent also has Toxic on Weezing as well. So, luckily, because of the fact that I am Natural Cure in this game, put me in a better position for me to able to switch out, not worry about the Toxic. But I stayed in, go for the Psychic one more time. Opponent goes back to Zapdos, getting some nice residual damage onto Zapdos. I switch back into Blissey if I'm mistaken. Yep, I did. My opponent goes for Roost. I was like, okay, let me go for the Toxic again here because I wanted the Toxic on Zapdos, because if I can get Toxic on Zapdos, I can able to go ham with Spectre at the late game. But my opponent actually goes for Golurk. I was like, okay, I did not have a really good, per se, good switch in because Golurk has a really good move pool. Earthquake, Close Combat. You got I think Poltergeist as well. It's a very strong Pokemon. Don't underestimate Golurk. And I was like, okay, I think I have to sack Steelix because it's like I don't see myself trying to save gold to per se use Steelix because everything else is starting to get weakened, especially Zapdos. Once Zapdos gets super weakened, I get able to break through. But I didn't see a reason to keep Steelix other than Zapdos, but I didn't have a good switch into it. So I went ahead and switched out into Steelix here. And my opponent actually goes for the Dynamic Punch, assuming that it was actually no guard. And I think no guard is pretty good for Golurk, especially for Poltergeist, since Poltergeist is a base 90 accuracy move. I really do think that no guard was the better bring over per se any of the other abilities. I mean, close combat would have been nice. I think would be better because I think close combat would have been I assume a 2-hit KO or close to it. But yeah, my opponent went for the Dynamic Punch, so I'm confused. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and set up rocks. My opponent actually brought set up rocks themselves, as I also set up rocks. Now Zapdos is getting chipped, which is excellent. So I go for the Earthquake because I didn't know what exactly per se to do. I was thinking about going for Gyro, but I didn't see a person to do so. So I went for the Earthquake here. And I was like, okay, let me switch out back into Blissey. Luckily with the heavy duty booties. But my opponent is not having a good time dealing with Blissey, with the Zapdos. And then this is where it reveals the 4 moves. Heat Wave, Toxic, Roost, and Defog. Meaning Starmie can easily beat Zapdos. Like, I can understand, like, the necessary moves, but I don't think this... I mean, it is a good bluff. Don't get me wrong. I think a good bluff of having moves that you would normally have not on the Mon is a good bluff, but at the same time, it's good on paper. In execution purposes, it's okay. It's either okay or you get punished. In this case, since my opponent revealed the 4 moves, instead of trying to maintain, like, hiding those moves, as finding the 4th move, this just allows me to actually go into Starmie now. I don't see a purpose to. So I actually go for the substitute. It actually breaks through, so I didn't know exactly per se what to do. So I was like, okay, let me switch out. Go back into Blissey. Polten goes back and go for Toxic again. I go for the Wish. And I think I switch back into Starmie, because my opponent doesn't have a good way of dealing with Starmie. Yep. And my opponent also brought in Dragonite. So I was like, okay, this is problematic. So I'm going to go for the Rapid Spin. And my opponent goes for Dragon Dance. So it was like, it was my only way of breaking through multi-scale. At least 90% of the time, when one is dealing with Dragonite, even I was using Dragonite last season, it was more than likely going to have heavy duty boots. Like, there's almost no reason to, because heavy duty boots is really good on Dragonite, maintain the multi-scale to switch into like hazards. So I was like, okay, I think Rapid Spin is the best play. Because unless my opponent is banded for some reason, then I get punished. But if it's not, then yeah. But this is where I was like, okay, I can now go for Ice Beam here. Take out Dragonite. Okay, nice. Now my opponent goes to Azelf. I go for Surf. I'm actually faster than Azelf, which is interesting. And it also took the damage well. And that raised an eyebrow for me, because Azelf has the same speed, if I'm not mistaken. Oops, sorry for that. Let's look at the calc.
1 minute later.
And one reason why it's kind of good to do post commentary in some cases is because I can able to show off calculations. Surf would have done 72 to 86. The fact that Surf actually did 48 meant that this Pokemon had at least max HP. So at max HP, that's 59 to 870. And that's still not enough. So I think it was Assault Vest, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 40 to 47. I assume, like, maybe not max HP per se. Like, maybe, let's see, 48.4. I assume not like max HP, but just like something around here. Like 236 in HP. Because it just took the damage too well. My opponent goes for the knockoff, almost KOing me. So I go for the Surf again. Doesn't KO. My opponent goes for Dazzling Gleam. I bring a Spark Treer. I was like, okay, I think it's time to start clicking buttons. I go for the Shadow Ball. Doesn't do too much. So I was like, okay, let me go for the Will-O-Wisp to bring hazards onto it. Opponent goes for the Roost. I assume my opponent would have went for Toxic, so he could weather it down, so that potentially if the Sea Berry is actually on Gold Lurk, it can actually survive the hit and able to take me out. In theory.
A game theory.
But my opponent didn't do that. I go for Hex. It does 64 damage. My opponent does go for Toxic, but it did miss. And this is where Spectrier does Spectrier things. It just sweeps. I just go for Shadow Ball. I don't die. My opponent goes for Toxic, but it's already too late for me to just keep on clicking Shadow Ball. So that is pretty much the overall game, and shows that my opponent did have Cassib Berry, but it was all, like I said, too little, too late. And yeah, that was the game. Good games to my opponent. Like, the prep was fair. Don't get me wrong. I think the prep was good. I really think that Zapdos could have had like the electric move, but fortunately that wasn't the case. In fact, I actually thought my opponent was going to bring Hitmonchan again. My opponent did bring Hitmonchan in the first battle, and it almost destroyed me. And the fact that my opponent didn't bring it this time, I actually wrote an eyebrow was raised. Because that mon, as not as good as it is actually pretty strong. And it could actually pop through my team with the right moves and the right setup. So, unfortunately, my opponent didn't bring it, so that it is what it is. But yeah, that's my first official win of this season of LDL. So, yeah, like, let's say Blaziken was allowed to have Speed Boost. Would I have won?
Nope.
If I had a different setup, yes. There was a case where I did get burned on Steelix, and if I did keep it relatively healthy, I would have kept it so that I can never use the Custap Berry. Probably take it out with the Earthquake. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and I was not ready for it. So, that's it for me here. I'm going to show off the clip of what happened of when Blaziken started sweeping me, and how I ended up becoming a bit speechless in the case. That's it for me here. Thank you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.